Aries rising. How you doing, Aries? This is your reading for the Pisces Virgo nodal shift that happened on the 11th or 12th of January, depending on what part of planet you currently are residing. Isha ma duela di anima, utufia la di anima duela di shat at inima. My name's Chloe. I work with card divination, astrology, and I channel multi-dimensional energies through my body, both in the form of physical and vocal light language, which you just heard and which you can see now. And all of this is going to happen throughout the reading. It's going to bring in healing, attunement, and activation codes to the messages that want to come through for you, my lovely Aries. So, as you'll probably see by the length of this video, it's a bit of a long one, and that's because this is a 1.5-year transit. And it's involving eclipses, and eclipses are always where the big energy portals are for us. So I'm really going to be getting into the weeds of it all during this reading. Firstly, a bit of housekeeping. For those of you who might want to have a Mars retrograde personal reading. Aries, you're ruled by Mars, so it always has a big effect on you. And Mars retrograde's the least out of everybody. And so it's quite significant when it does happen. It's our personal motivation and drive and action that's getting a recalibration, and it's finished its retrograde part of its cycle in Leo, and now we're in Cancer. We're not going to end this whole cycle until the 2nd of May. So if you want to go into your personal chart in regards to this Mars retrograde, they are currently 50% off. If you want to take me up on that offer, email me directly. The second bit of general housekeeping, I've set up a second YouTube channel. It's called Quantum Vibe Tarot. I've linked it into this channel. You'll see it on the homepage. It's also, the link is in the description box, and they're more shorter transmissions. They're not they're not fixed in astrology. I'm on camera. I go through things very quickly. It's about getting a download and activating it. I'm using lots of different decks and moving through it all very quickly. Lots more channeling comes through in those readings. There's only 2 videos up at the moment. The first one is Healing the Wounded Inner Child, and the follow-up was then Activating our Higher Avatar of Love. So if you feel so inclined, I'm going to do 2 transmissions, one on the South Node in Virgo and one in the North Node in Pisces. Like, that helps us activate the most integrated and expansive intention of this transit. So as I said, if you're interested in that, you go check it out. It's where I get to be a bit more playful, a bit more free-flowing. Now, housekeeping for this transit. I have done a 3-part series. That's the first videos that went out, and in part 1 I break down the meaning of the North and South Node, which is where we know where the eclipses are going to be, as well as what the resonance of eclipses are, the significance of them. And in part 1 I get into the energy of the North Node in Pisces, pulled collective tarot for it, also pulled these oracle cards in that reading, and I got so many channeled messages in the lead up between doing this transit, and they've been showing up very, very loudly. And I really get into the sort of bigger intention of what the North and South Node is up to, and that will really, it gives you a more depth and understanding of what's going to show up in this reading, right? It's acting as the baseline for the all 12 sign series, and I'm not going to really be talking about Pisces or Virgo and go into the details of that. I'm going to be focusing on the houses that this is going to turn up for you in this reading. Otherwise all these videos would be about 2.5 hours, 3 hours long. So that's all in that 3-part series. As I say, part 1, North South Node, eclipses and Pisces. Part 2, Virgo energy, and then part 3 is the combination of the 2, as well as some other astrological tips that you can then work with. I know it's a lot of content, but this is a 1.5-year transit, and it's, I don't know, the vibe really did shift, and it's a very different energy than what we've been working with that North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, which you are very aware of. tuela di anima duela. Now I read for the rising sign. So for those of you who do not have Aries in the first house, which is called your rising sign, where your ascendant falls, look to the house it does fall in. Look to the themes of that house, and you want to apply those themes along with all the other meaning you've got going on in the sign of Aries to the messages that come through. It's as if that Aries energy, wherever it falls in your natal chart, has now energetically moved to the first house. You've just got to add on your own natal chart meaning. For example, I've got Aries up in the 9th house and my midheaven is there. So I'd apply all of that energy to what comes through in this reading. As always, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So, is that everything? I think that's everything. Let's get into the weeds. Firstly, I'm going to start off by pulling 4 tarot cards for each of the cardinal signs, and that is you, Aries, for the North and South Node in Aries and Libra, and then the Capricorn and Cancer energy, which was acting as the manifestation and building of that eclipse cycle. So I'm going to be pulling a card for each of those signs of like what's been activated now that we've closed out that cycle, now that you've done all that work, what's being activated as well. I'll get the card at the bottom of the deck. And then I'm going to move on to the Virgo South Node, pull some cards on how to work with that, and then a couple of cards on Gemini, which is acting as the manifestation of that South Node, in the same way that Cancer has done, but I'll go into more detail about that as we go through. And then I'll move on to Pisces, and then do a couple of cards for Sagittarius. And at the end of the reading, I'm going to be pulling one card from 4 different oracle decks to sort of sum up and bring everything together. So let's get into it. Today is Venus's day, and she's in Pisces, so we're bringing in that Venusian energy via the Pisces realm. And the moon is in Sagittarius, so a fellow fire sign, bringing in some fire energy for you, my lovely Aries. So Aries, the sign of Aries is where the North Node was, right? This is in your first house, the house of self, right? This is your embodiment of your actions and your deeds. It all depends on whether you've got a day or a night chart, which luminary is providing wisdom to your ascendant of how you move through the cosmic waters, right? It is, as you know, it's the lens in which you operate, right? And show up through your actions and your deeds. It's your body, it's your character, it's your sense of self, and it's often how other people see you rather than the sun or the moon sign. So the North Node is the head of the dragon, right? What we're hungry for, what we're striving for. You know, it's pushing us into new territory. And really, a North Node is yang in energy. It amplifies the sign that it's in and everything in that sign. And so you are going through a huge shift and pushing into spaces that were unfamiliar to you, of how you embody yourself, how you perceive yourself, how others see you, right? How you move through the world. You would have just found yourself navigating and having a real focal on the sort of upgrade of self. So interesting. During this transit, the transmissions of the light language has been very mantra-like, which feels very Virgo and Piscean. I'll talk more about this in the oracle reading. Oh, that reminds me. So these 2 piles I pulled for Pisces and Virgo, and then the rest I pulled them during the readings, but the rest of these I pulled before doing the whole transit. I'm going to be doing the oracle reading next because you're the last sign for the all 12 signs. So that's going to come out, and that's where I'm going to sum up everything and bring in things that came up through all the readings and go through the oracle cards. So you might be interested in that. Di animo, toela, dishanimo, toela, di anima. Dufala. Oh yeah, I was talking about the mantra, right? That sense of repetition of the Virgo energy, right? Of the detail of the mantra. And then that Piscean energy of connecting to source. Toela di animo, dushanima. So North Node in your sign, as I say, like really pushing yourself into new spaces of how you move through the world, how you perceive yourself, how others perceive you. And Chiron was there. Chiron's still there. So there would have been activating some deeper wisdom about some hardcore wounds you may have felt about the self, right? And how you embody yourself. So that's the energy of the North Node. It's an 18 to 19 year cycle. So you're not going to have that again for that length of time. And now you're going to be really integrating everything that you have been exploring in that new territory. The Libra energy, the South Node in Libra, the South Node is the tail of the dragon. This is about releasing. This is about purging, letting go, and then with what's left, condensing and refining that energy, right? So this is the sort of over in your 7th house of the other. You've got bonus card for that one. I don't want to keep shuffling. So that was the 7th house of the other, right? One-on-one, important, committed relationships in your life. Whether that's a business partner, your one-on-one clients, your therapist, intimate friends, right? Those ride or die friends, longer-term committed romantic relationships, as well as your relationship with Source. And it's the South Node is an inner yin experience, an esoteric experience. It's asking you to find deeper meaning by pulling structures away, by stripping us bare and leaving us with what really matters. And then we bring nuance and depth to that energy. So you may have found certain it's a withdrawal energy. So you might not have seen certain relationships manifest outwardly. You may have found certain relationships perhaps fall away during this cycle in order for you to really figure out, okay, well, what does the other mean to me, right? How do I want to show up for the other? How do I want the other to show up for me? So you really would have been refining your understanding of your interaction with the other. And so for some people that can see like feeling, kind of disconnected from the other because you're expanding into the self. That's causing you to then redefine what's important, right? And so that may have just felt you just taking a step back from certain relationships in your life. Some of them may have fallen away, others may have evolved. It's a very mature energy, the South Node. It really helps us stand in our power, even though it can be very disorientating and quite discombobulating because we're not used to change and we're not used to letting go of things. And so those, you would have been cultivating that sort of deeper connection of what's really important. It may have been that you were sort of working one-on-one very intensely with certain relationships, whether that's a business partner of like a project and you're sort of really going deep into something. The kind of imagery I've been using for the South Node is essential oils rather than eau de toilette, right? Eau de toilette is a very diluted perfume. It is often very synthetic. And then you have eau de parfum, that's more rich in its nature, but the essential oils is the base, is the root energy. We need very little essential oils to get a very intense smell, right? And have an intense impact. And so that's the South Node. The South Node is getting you to your essential oils of the 7th, right? So as I said, it could see you really intensely working one-on-one. This could have seen through the sort of the closing off of the other and the intensity of it, you may have found yourself heading into new territory of the self because it brought certain dynamics into the forefront that meant you had to kind of push yourself. It can also represent what's going on with the other in your life, the 7th house. So they may have been withdrawn and distant and more inward, and that may have been helped you understand, well, you've got more space for the self because you're not so enmeshed with the other, that you found yourself, because of certain relationships not being so present, you had just found yourself more in a self-orientated energy, in a way that was helping you move out of perhaps old patterns when it comes to showing up with the other, releasing a lot of those. Right, the Capricorn energy, this was squaring Libra and Aries, and the Capricorn energy was acting as the manifestation and building of the North Node in Aries activation. So the eclipses happened in Aries and Libra. They mark new beginnings and closing out cycles. They activate, right? And then that energy, right, that energy was funneling into Capricorn in terms of the North Node. And Capricorn for you was in your 10th house of your life purpose and your career. Right? This career doesn't have to be life purpose, it can just facilitate it. This house is about visibility, reputation, how the big outside world sees you. I like to envisage a tree in the natal chart. And so the 10th house is linked into when the sun was at the peak of its arc on the day that you were born. So it's very sun orientated in its energy. And so the 10th house is the leaves at the top of the tree that are striving to expand into new spaces, that are seeking the light, right? So this expansion of self, this heading into new territory of self, was manifesting in your understanding of your life path, right? You would have found a lot, you were building because you were stretching out into new spaces that were more in alignment with your soul, that was then allowing you to build and create in alignment with that, in alignment with this discovery of self, this expansion of self that was sort of reorientating that life path into alignment with that, right? The sense of, so often there can be wounds in the 10th of perhaps career not manifesting in the way that you would like it to, not getting the visibility or the reputation, not even knowing your path, right? So this transit, if any of those wounds feel very, relevant to you, I mean, we can still have some like really deep rooted runes. Whoa, they were just doing work when I said that at the sacral chakra and the third eye, and that is like your creative passion and your inner knowing and applying that to the 10th house. Anyway, there can be some like really deep rooted wounds around not being seen, right? I think that's a collective energy for us as a species. And so you would have been, because you were heading into new spaces around the sense of self, working through and building beyond those wounds. So you may have found yourself just having more visibility, having more recognition, and that may be on a subtle level, internally of yourself, of seeing yourself, seeing what you're capable of, as well as by the outside world, and adding on that kind of energy of not necessarily being distorted by the lack thereof, right? Because we want to walk our own path without being like having our energy drained because somebody else got that pay rise or that promotion, and then all of a sudden we feel heavy and disconnected. This energy was really helping you build for the long term that served your soul's path. Now, Cancer was where the South Node in Libra was manifesting, and Cancer for you is in your 4th house of your roots and your foundations, right? So the 10th house is the leaves striving towards the sun. The 4th is the darkest part of your chart, the darkest point in the day, of the day that you were born. And this is where the roots of the tree are. We need healthy roots in order for the tree to really grow. And the 1st and the 7th, that Aries and Libra, they are the branches. We need them in balance. They need to be in harmony with one another for the tree to grow, like all of these combined to really grow in a healthy way. So that's South Node in Libra around the other. Oh, I forgot to mention a real refinement of your relationship with Source, of stripping back ideas and perspectives around your disconnection from Source. You would have really been harnessing that. But yeah, so the South Node in Libra manifesting in your 4th house of your roots and your foundations, your ancestors, both blood and soul lineage, your parental figures, the roof over your head, and the things that you do in private. We can have a lot of trauma here, right? Understandably, we've got the parental figure. triggers, and it really doesn't matter what kind of life you've had. In one way or another, there's going to be a wound there's going to be something that's triggering, as well as the ancestors of holding that energy of a lot of the wounds that they may have faced, as well as the wisdom. But with this South Node energy, you would have been letting go of a lot of that, you know, if you think about the Force, that we can learn a lot of love languages from our parental figures, that we then take on the road with us as we mature, right? And we go out in the world. And it's not just romantic relationships, it's that exchange between, you know, individuals and how you show up in that way. So with that South Node in the 7th of one-on-one relationships, you would have found that through it manifesting in the 4th, of letting go of a lot of limiting beliefs and restrictions around how you show up in the 7th, right? The 7th is about commitment. It's linked into contracts, right? Where two parties come together and they're responsible and they do what they say they're going to do. And so often we can really struggle with that. We can struggle to have those kind of healthy, balanced one-on-one relationships, usually from wounds from the early years. And so I can see this definitely helping strip back some of those issues in order to really elevate and bring a sense of maturity. You know, it's your root system, it's your sense of safety and security. So while you're sort of reorientating the 7th, right, of you know, say some certain dynamics in your life have just helped you, you know, sort of reinforce this sense of, I don't feel secure. I'm not, you know, I'm always wary of what the other's up to and whether they're, you know, they're gonna not love me, or whether there's abandonment issues, that kind of thing. I can see that South Node manifesting in the 4th of helping clear out and let go of those belief systems that have blocked you from feeling safe and secure. You know, for some of you, this may have been a reorientation around what is your home, and how do you, you know, say you live with people one-on-one, whether that's romantic, a friend, or whatever it is, that there may have just been a certain withdrawal of interactions around that's helped condense your emotional responses, where you've had more time to go inward with that emotional body of Cancer and refine your intuition. So whereas you may have, you know, Libra can be a bit people pleasing, and one of the South Node energies was letting go of that. So it may have been that you might have been on hyper observation of the emotional needs of everybody else, but then sacrificed yourself in the process. So you really would have just gone, condensed your capacity to trust in your intuition, that when you do need to reach out and support the other in your home, that you're going to do so, but you're not going to be worrying or focusing on things that aren't real. So your root system would have been recalibrated, right? Sometimes we've got certain toxins in the root system that just recreate trauma responses and limiting beliefs. And I can see this especially with the help from Source coming in and sort of revitalizing that root system in a way that serves your longer term goals. Right, so I could keep talking about that forever, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna see what we got in the tarot. So the Aries energy, what's now being activated with the closing out of this cycle. So this is the energy you're working with now. This is what's being integrated into your vessel that you're now able to work with. And we've got the 10 of Cups. I love this for the first house. This is you feeling good about yourself. This is an inner emotional alignment, right? The sense of satisfaction of how you move through the world, this confidence, right? And really that overall, as I say, that emotional clarity, right? And all of these houses and all of these signs, they were all interacting with each other. So I'm feeling this is kind of linked into that South Node in Cancer, right, of letting go of a lot of emotional responses that have distorted for you from feeling good in your own incarnation. So this is really activating a good vibe of how you move through the world, how you understand yourself, how other people see you. They're seeing you more in alignment. And one of those things the North Node was doing in Aries was Aries, there is an element of hyper-independence. There is an element of conflict, right? You're ruled by Mars. You're an outward yang manifestation of Mars. Think of the rams, you know, butting heads. This isn't a conflict card. This is like, I'm cool. I'm chill. Internally, I'm chill. I don't need to engage in conflict in the same way that I would have done before. And your emotions aren't being dysregulated in the same way. I'm just thinking of all the Aries moons that I know that kick off, right? All of a sudden, bam, blow up. But you give them a second and then they're fine and they move on. And this feels like it's kind of like that's been tempered, or at least the very way in which you express it is coming through from more of a jovial place. Like you're not taking it all so seriously anymore. In the best possible way. Because there's just this resonance of I am who I am, and what's going on with other people isn't going to distort me. So for the Libra energy, you got a bonus card. We got the King of Cups and the Moon, which is Pisces, right? So interestingly, and this has been happening in a lot of the readings where it's bringing in the Pisces and Virgo energy, right? So we've got the King of Cups and the Moon. Very watery energy for you, my dears. I love the King of Cups because it's really sort of backing up you know, what's already come through. The King of Cups doesn't get distorted by its emotions. It understands the power of them, you know. So something I'm going to mention in the Oracle reading that I forgot to mention in the 3-part series. The amount of kind of like fantasy, sort of sci-fi, magical series that are out there that are always like, you know, the sort of the training in the schools, and they're like, your emotions are your most powerful thing, but we've got to have a sort of resonance, we've got to have control over them. This is the King of Cups, right? In order to activate your own magic. The king isn't drowning in the ocean. It's not getting swept away in the turmoil of the ever-changing emotional body. In fact, it's floating on a stone throne on the ocean. It's chill, right? It's cool, calm, and collected in the eye of the storm, right? And this is never about denying your emotional body. Right? We want to cultivate a place of neutrality within ourselves. You're a multifaceted being. You're able to hold space for different energies within yourself. And so cultivating that neutrality, which is the King of Cups in the emotional sphere, we can then experience those emotions and let them be released rather than suppress them, and also harness them into tools for us without losing our cool, without not getting swept away in it, right? So it's this beautiful balance between the honoring of the emotions and the power in which to use them, because this is about working with love, working with your emotional body, with your imagination, with your creativity, Ishla, with your flow state. So this is all over in the 7th. So this is you feeling very confident, very sovereign in how you show up with the other, right? Really being very, as I say, that emotional stability, but also operating from a place of intuition, right? And again, it's really tying into what was already coming through in the transmission of knowing when to engage and when to not engage, right? Knowing when to bring love to the table. I mean, always bring love to the table. Knowing when to trust your intuition of when to take action, right? This is you very much being in your power when it comes to working with the other in terms of your emotional body, right? I also see this as like that heightened connection with Source that has soothed your intuitive body, that you're then able to work with Source and co-create from your intuition that you've got a great deal of confidence in, right? Because of that refinement process that happened in Libra, right? We then have the moon, right? And so the moon is, as I said, Pisces energy. So if we just think about where Pisces is, and obviously I'm going to be talking about this house when we get to the Pisces energy, that it's your 12th house. And in the 12th house is I'm going to just touch on one thing here, is the unconscious spaces. And in those unconscious spaces are trauma responses, limiting beliefs, and distorted love languages. So this is saying you're bringing in an energy where those distortions, because it's following the King of Cups, aren't controlling you in the same way. And you're going to be magnifying that even more with that Pisces energy. But in terms of the moon's card, right, this is about the evolutionary growth, being comfortable with the unknown, with the unseen, because the moon's light isn't the same clarity as the sun. We have the wolf and the dog here. That represents our instincts and our training, right? The dogs were trained, so there's a tempering there, and through that honoring of both the instinct and the training, we go on this evolutionary journey through the two pillars that are linked into the high priestess of the material and physical realm, and go climb that mountain. So this is saying this is a very psychic card. It's very intuitive, especially along with that King of Cups, that your instincts and your awareness of the unseen, you're no longer really in a fear state of, say, with another person and you can't read them and you don't know what's going on with them, rather than being in the head of like, how do I make it better, right? How do I facilitate? There's a calmness here that your intuition is providing you such a great resource in order to interact with the other. This is also, the sort of when we're working one-on-one, right? We don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know how they're feeling. We don't know what's going on. And this is acting as a very calming energy that's having you be very comfortable with how things unfold rather than, the worry. Libra can have a lot of social anxiety. And this feels like a lovely balm that is heightening your emotional and intuitive connection when you're interacting with the other. Capricorn. So this is the 10th house of your life purpose, your career. We got the 8 of Swords in reverse. Hello, Jupiter in Gemini. So this is about limiting beliefs, right? This is about perspectives, ideas that feel like they are real, but they are actually a cage that isn't a cage. Everything's an illusion. You've let go of restrictions around how you move through your career, how you move along your path, around visibility and reputation, right? So really it's in reverse. So this is your energy that you're working with. You're no longer trapped and stuck and caged in. You've let go of some illusions, some deeper perspectives at your root that have blocked that path from truly manifesting. So now you're working with more freedom. You've got more space to explore. You're pulling down those structures where things may not have been manifesting, and really walked your own path. And that would have activated a higher level of connection outside of the limiting beliefs that we all often have. The Cancer energy in your 4th house. Love this. We got the Queen of Pentacles. This is you bringing depth and nuance and nourishment in your home, right? In your root system. She is feeding nutrients to your roots. She's cultivating that sense of abundance. She's bringing, as I say, real depth and nuance through observation. It's a really loving, very caring, very grounded, very stable energy. So you're feeling in your power. You're able to cultivate your root system now, right? And cultivate that strength of safety and security from a place of abundance. This is you picking up a lot of wisdom signals from your ancestors, right? Being able to observe and not respond in a dramatic way, in a hypersensitive way. Perhaps if triggers with parental figures or certain situations come up, this is a grounded, stable, observant energy, right? And then it's redirecting you to abundance, redirecting you to wisdom, so you can create and build from that root system. And that is really great for the Capricorn energy, right? At the bottom of the deck, we have Judgment. This is the Ascension card, right? You see the figures at the bottom. They are the dead. They are old versions of you. They are the ancestors. They are past life energy. And so often there can be grievances or wounds that haven't been untangled, right? Even though you think you've moved on from that old version of self, there still might be something just energetically pulling you back into that cycle. And so when the Judgment card comes up, it really is this ascension, because the angelic frequency is raising up, clearing those blocked energies and allowing those old versions of self, ancestors, past life energy to be released from the grievance and allow them to transition and evolve, right? We've got the mountains in the background. These represent a higher perspective. So this is this sense of good judgment, itoela di anima, of ascension, right? Of the 4 angular houses, 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th. They are the foundational cross of your natal chart: self, home, other, work, or life path, right, in their essence. So there is a really coming together and a raising up of all of those areas of your life, and I'm here for it, Aries. Okay, so I'm going to cut the deck and we're going to see where they go. I do this after the end of every reading, and when I've shut the video off, and I'm like, whoa, the synchronicities of the confirmation cards are wild. I'm going to be doing it for this, and then I'll do it at the end for the oracle cards. I won't be doing it for the other 2 sections, because otherwise, oh, okay, love it. So with the, I don't know why I went for the Capricorn, but I did. With the 8 of Swords in reverse, we've got the 7 of Swords, and that is all about thinking differently, thinking beyond conflict and finding your inner balance, right? So I really love that, of moving away from the bully and victim cycle mentality of the 5 of Swords and stepping into your inner equilibrium. Here for it. Oh, Ace of Wands with the Queen of Pentacles. You're going to be getting bright ideas at home, a revigoration of your energy, because your root system is had a power up. With the King of Cups and the Moon, we have the 6 of Swords, which is about moving into a landscape of thriving with core perspectives that serve you for a thriving mentality rather than a survival mentality. And I love that with the other, because you're operating from, again, that place of abundance, that place of thriving, rather than the same feedback loops of distorted love languages. With the 9 of Cups, we've got the 10 of Swords in reverse, releasing limitations that I feel like you've been immobilized, right? There's lots of perspectives and ideas that are in your, you're lying on the ground, you're not able to move, you're not free, right? So your sense of self has been liberated of certain perspectives. This can often be from past life energy, from the ancestors, that's got you into the 9 of Cups. Ooh, here for it. Okay, let's get on with the Virgo South Node. So this is over in your 6th house of work, how you work, physical health, routines, co-workers, and therefore collaborations. Okay, they don't want that one. Collaboration and pets, and therefore acts of service. Now, this is the adult in the room house, right? Those themes we can struggle with, right? We can, oh, work. Oh, God. Do I really have to eat healthy? Oh, God, do I really have to, go and, have a routine? We can struggle. We can struggle working with other people, right? And we can struggle with acts of service. And so the adult in the room, now that you've released a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of structures around the other and what it means to you. For me, the 6th house, if you don't understand how you work, right, of that Virgo energy, if you don't understand how you work, how are you supposed to communicate that to other people? How are you supposed to communicate how you understand things and how you work to other people, and then therefore work together in a healthier way? So the more that we understand the 6th house, the more that, let's think about sort of more love relationships. I think about the amount of people that I know throughout my life and currently that were doing really well by themselves. They were eating really well. They were taking care of their physical vessel. They were committing to work and finding the joy on it. And then they get in a relationship and then they start eating junk food, right? And they start going out a lot in a way that they're just not being the adult in the room for themselves because of this relationship, because of the other. Now, that South Node in Libra, you've let go of a lot of things of the other. And now you're really refining how you work how you're being the adult in the room. So the South Node, releasing, purging, letting go, and then condensing, more of an inner yin esoteric experience. So this is a real inner cultivation of you being the adult in the room. Of pulling away structures. You know, so often we can't be the adult in the room because usually in our early years we may have not had the role models we need. We may have faced neglect, and then we recreate that and we neglect ourselves. It's too many cards. We just want to. Okay, before I go on, I'm pulling, there's going to be 3 piles. First pile is what's the intention of this transit. Second pile is the challenge. Third pile is how to work with and amplify the intention. So that South Node is just going to be pulling away, as I say, structures around you not being able to fully connect to being in the adult in the room for yourself, right? And letting go of a lot of wounds around all of the sort of, you know, health, being able to do routines, being able to work well with other people. But it is an inner experience. It is a sense of not being outwardly expressive and pulling all that energy internally. So you may find you're just in a lot of contemplation about what does work mean to you. Right? How do you work things out? You're going to be in the process of things falling away. Always trust in the process with the South Node. It's a difficult transit, right? It has its challenges. And so just if things do fall away, like trust that will then create space for what needs to come through. I'll give an example for me before I carry on. So I've got the South Node now in my 2nd house. And this is the house of regular income. And so I was aware, as an astrologer, I was aware of the themes and the possibilities that I might lose some regular income might fall away. Now, a couple of days before the nodes change signs, a fellow Leo rising, I'm a Leo rising, who also has the South Node in her 2nd house, said, I can't hire you on a regular basis anymore because I've lost some regular work. And it was just so on the money, of one Leo rising losing regular work to that having a knock-on effect of a fellow Leo rising losing regular work. Now at the time, even though that's quite a scary thing of, you know, not having the same amount of regular income, you know, it's sort of very survival mechanism, fear response. That I didn't have a fear response. In fact, I felt really serene. It felt very aligned. And then the next day, I got a call saying someone wanted to hire me on a non-regular basis, right? So more one-off things, which is where I've got the North Node up in the 8th house. So I'm just highlighting that as the feedback loop between the North and the South Node, that whatever is being released in the South Node is going to get replaced in the North Node by something that actually serves you better. But you just got to trust in it. So that South Node of it may be that certain methodologies in the way that you work, certain projects of working with other people may fall away, where you just might find you're not engaging in co-workers in the same way, that there may be certain routines that you have that fall away and you're like, what? But that was really good for me. It's going to be creating more space for something else. Overall, this is going to be, as I say, condensing the way that you work. It's a power up. It really is. It just takes a little time to get to grips with. You're going to be refining how you work. Okay. You got a bonus card. You got 3 cards in the end. Right, what else could I say for the South Node moving through there? I mean, apart from quite a lot. As I said, if you work in like an office situation and you're usually very chatty and you want to talk to everybody, you might just find that you're not interacting with your co-workers in the same way. But when you do speak, there's a resonance to it. When you do interact, there's a deeper meaning. Remember, this is an inner esoteric experience. This is about bringing a heightened level of spiritual meaning to the way that you work and the way that you're the adult in the room for yourself. And when I say spiritual, I just mean like more meaning, more like significance, more weight in your life. Now, in the description box are all the dates, degrees, and what kind of eclipse they are all listed in the description box, along with where Mercury is going to be for this whole transit. So for this side of it, this is going to be the Virgo Gemini energy, which is both ruled by Mercury. Wherever Mercury is in the sky is going to be what house it's in, and therefore the themes of that house. And it's going to obviously change quicker than other transits. Those themes are going to play a role in what's going on here, as is your Mercury. You want to look to where your Mercury is. Look to where your Mercury is and what house it's in, the themes of that house, and those themes are going to be have a greater meaning. They're going to be applying to what's going on here, because wherever your Mercury is in your chart is always affecting Virgo and Gemini. You can go into more detailed understanding of your own chart with this. There's lots of other things to do. If you want a personal reading based on this nodal shift, you can. My website is everywhere, or you can email me directly if you want to pay by PayPal, or just email me directly if you want to do it that way instead. So this is about sort of letting go of control, right? I'll say you the two main themes that came through in my channeled messages in the lead up, what I was feeling about the energy, and then what came doubled down in the collective 3-part series is practical magic, right? This is the key phrase for the Pisces Virgo energy. We are letting go of control and criticism and rationality in a way that limits us over in the sign of Virgo. And activating a more non-linear understanding of reality and the unconditional love of source and that magic, right? The miracles of it all. The other main theme is don't push where there's resistance. Just don't. Soften. Go do something else. Focus on something else. Don't worry about it. Don't try and figure it out. Don't try and figure out why. What we really want to do, this is very, very yin energy, right? Even though the North Node, which I'll get to, is a yang frequency, it's in a water sign, which is yin. South Node is in an earth sign, which is yin. And yin is about the flow state. Yin is not trying to force, control, push, take action, right? Manifest in a controlled kind of way. It is genuinely what you want to do is try and find that flow state. And as I said, when there's resistance, flow around it. Go do something else, soften. And if you then, when you've softened, you'll get an intuitive hit about how to solve the frictions, solve the resistance, then go back to it. But often at the moment where there's resistance, it's kind of like, no, don't focus on this, right? Trust your intuition on it. This is a great time to really work with our intuition and play with it. Sometimes we might get it wrong. Sometimes we'll then learn from that. Every time I get something wrong, it's always a learning opportunity. Another thing is about fear. Right? Virgo can be very hyper controlling, hyper fear state, needing all the plans because it's very observant, right? And so if you observe old patterns, we can then think that they're going to happen again now. We're letting go of that element of control over time. I need to write that down. I've not said it in that way. Dialima duela diele go at iniot and yeah, getting out of that sort of the to-do list and all of that, but there can be a lot of fear there. Can be a lot of fear just in general. Now what's happened for me, and every time I bring anything to this table, whether it's a practice or an idea, whatever it is, it's because I've put it into practice. It's very rare for me to bring something that I haven't seen work, okay, or show up in my own life. That for a while now, and it really ramped up in the lead up to the nodal shift, and then since the nodes have changed signs, every time I've had a catastrophizing thought pattern, or a fear thought pattern, or a judgment thought pattern, right? Virgo is very critical because it's highly observant, which is self-criticism that externalizes to judgment outside. Every time I've gone through that, I've worked through certain practices to release that energy, right? And I've often been in a fear state most of my life, so this has been quite a profound practice. But what you want to do, it's not necessarily about the mind, it's about your body and your emotional response, right? That earth and water energy. You need to get your body to soften and then feel the flow of ease of your emotional body, right? Bring ease and softness into that emotional body. And that will, with the intention of letting go of that, of the anxiety, of the fear, right? And once you sort of stop, and or one good tactic is like going and doing something else to distract, but that doesn't always work. A little bit of a meditation, whatever works for you. Every time so far, or maybe I can't say every time, predominantly when I do that, not long after, sometimes immediately, the last time was like 10 seconds later, whatever that fear was, whatever that criticism or worry was, Source comes in with that North Node in Pisces and shows me that you didn't need to worry. You didn't need none of it. You didn't need any of it, right? So it's been doubling down. And often, like, if you got a worry of like, oh, I kind of need this in my life, like I'm a bit worried about not having this or whatever it is, that then Source will provide the thing that you truly need. This is the miracle of the non-linear energy of Pisces, of everything is connected, right? And so even though we're like, oh, how did that happen? It's like, well, because there's stuff going on that we're not aware of. There is connection everywhere. So those are like the core energies. I still really recommend going and watching that 3-part series because some big stuff came out that is so helpful, has helped me so much. I'm a Virgo sun, right? Will really amplify and work with this frequency, and I am here for it. I'm so enjoying it. So those are some of the big themes that you can apply when working with all of this. So there, as I said, there may be some things that fall away that you go in a fear state. Help clear that energy. Don't try and plan and control it, because that fluky synchronistic Pisces energy has got us back. Right, so the intention of this transit is the 5 of Pentacles in reverse, the 7 of Pentacles in reverse, and then the Knight of Wands. And I love this. Jump. So 5 of Pentacles, feeling left out in the cold, scarcity complex, feeling run down, exhausted, not connected to source, right? Because they're outside of church. This is a scarcity mindset. So we can apply that with you, neglecting yourself and not being the adult in the room, not feeling that connection to source in the way that you work. Not feeling good relationships and co-creation with others, right? And so it's in reverse. So it's helping let go of this mindset, right? So say you haven't had enough work, right? And you're feeling a bit run down about that. It's kind of letting you know that what's going to unfold here is really going to help you step outside of the scarcity space. We then got the 7 of Pentacles in reverse. Now, the 7 of Pentacles in the upright is about planting new seeds and tending to them with lots of diligence, right? Being very mindful and very careful. If you've ever grown vegetables, when you do it from scratch, you're like, how on earth is that tiny little shoot going to turn into a pumpkin, right? And so there can be an element of restlessness with the 7 of Pentacles. It's very diligent, it does the thing, but it's not necessarily seeing things outwardly manifest, right? So this is kind of like apprenticeship level, and it's in reverse. So it's saying the way that you work, the way that you understand, the way that you take care of yourself, you are moving in, you're going to see things manifest at a higher level, right? That condensed level of the South Node, right? Rather than the frustration of things. Because certain routines, certain ideas that you feel like you've been putting into practice that actually don't serve you are going to fall away, and it's going to leave you with like, okay, I'm going to focus all my energy right here. This is what I'm intuitively guided to do. This is what feels right. And it's then going to take you out of a stage into the stage of mastery, of being the adult in the room. Because the South Node isn't about new things. The South Node is about letting go of old structures, and then with what's left, deepening what was already there. So there's going to be something that you've already been putting into practice that you're then going to have a higher level of interaction with. On the general level, that is you being more of the adult in the room, which covers the base of all of it. It's no longer feeling like, oh, why isn't this not manifesting anymore? Why is this not manifesting in the way that I like? I keep trying, but as well as sort of you know, having that co-creation energy, right, with the co-worker energy. And that doesn't just have to be in work though. It's that simply that capacity to co-create with people in a mature way. That's taking you to the next stage as well. And I love that the Knight of Wands is here. This is your energy, right? Your fire energy. This is the embodiment of this, right? This is you moving freely from your frequency in the way that you work. You putting it into practice, you taking it out on the road, you feeling fully embodied with this download. That's coming from you and not from what anybody else expects from you in the way that you work and the way that you figure things out. That's entirely your space. The challenge. The challenge is the Six of Cups, right? And this is being able to make peace with the past. Okay, so this is the challenge. This is also the biggest house in tarot, so there's an element of safety and security, right? And this follows the Five of Cups, which is about grief. It's about a heaviness. It's like things that didn't manifest, or things that were beautiful and joyous that are no more, and that heaviness that we feel with it, and not being able to let go, right? This has been a big theme for all of the signs, really, of highlighting you gotta let go, you gotta be open to the changes and what's falling away, because otherwise it can feel really disorientating. And so this is kind of highlighting that there's going to be a challenge to let go of structures that, or ideas and wounds from the past. You know, this can be very much about that sort of wounds from the early years that has blocked you being the adult in the room, you know, whether that's like you're still maybe a bit resentful towards your parental figures, of why is it that you can't sort of step up to yourself. Whether that's on a really conscious level or an unconscious level, it's showing up, right? That there's something that's resisting the change of coming to peace and therefore elevating this level of maturity. Because the challenge is making peace and seeing the flowers. Flowers are now growing from that Five of Cups, right? There we're seeing fertility, we're seeing new life come through and feeling safe and secure. So there is just this, I just cut the deck to get a bit of advice. And we got the Ten of Swords again in reverse, right? Of the awareness of these are the limiting beliefs that are blocking you from being at peace and feeling safe in the way that you embody your being the adult in the room and work with other people. There may have been wounds from the past in terms of, you know, that co-creation energy where you're like, I'm not doing that again because I got burnt. And this is really wanting you to know these swords are falling away, but it's wanting you to know that these are the perceptions. They're there. They are falling away, but they're letting you know that they're there in the first place. So you may be like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I cut the deck and I get this. And it's like, no, there's some stuff that's immobilized you. And this, when we're in this space for so long, we then think we think that's normal. And so we can be like, well, I don't need to change because I'm comfortable in this space. So I mean, I've noticed in my own practice that the more that I show up as the adult in the room for myself, right? I've just had Capricorn there. So that was the manifestation of the North Node in Aries. So it was more outward yang energy, right? The more that I've been showing up for myself, even in the little things, right? Of, oh, I really should do this. And then I do it. I then get a boost of energy, right? I then have more space and time to do all that fun stuff that isn't necessarily the adult in the room stuff. So I'm just going to flag that up of like, trust in the practice of being the adult in the room for yourself. You know, maybe do a daily habit of like, is there something that you're like, oh, I should do that? Don't make it a big thing. Don't make it a big thing. If there's a small thing in your life, right, maybe it's like, oh, I should probably eat some more vegetables. Just add one more vegetable every dish. Do something simple, and maybe not every time, right? Where did I hear this? That if you want to establish a new routine, you've got to tack it on to something you're already doing. But there's some grievance here that, whether you're conscious of it or not, that is going to be acting as a block. It's serving you. It will serve you when you release that by having that challenge in the first place. And yeah, maybe do a meditation on these swords falling out. But that card for me very much is just like letting you know they are there, right? They're going to be falling out, but they're letting you know that they are there, even if you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, how to work with this energy. We've got the Hanged Man and we've got Saturn, the world. So this is Neptune and this is Saturn, and they are both in Pisces. So this is really linking in the Pisces energy, which I will obviously get to. And that's not surprising. The head and the tail of the dragon, they interchange between each other. What's going on with one is affecting the other. So not surprising at all. So we've got the Hanged Man. And this is very sort of yin energy. This is about, hey, there needs to be a new perspective that comes through. Right? Give yourself the space, the time. Right? Slow down. Don't worry about all the to-do list. Give yourself however it is that you connect to the hangman, whether it's sitting in meditation or going for a walk and seeing what comes through, whatever it is. It really is saying, hey, pause, consciously put yourself in a place to be open to new perspectives, open to a deeper wisdom within, right? And because this is the only halo in tarot and it represents this sense of enlightenment, but we kind of got to find this place for ourselves in order to activate it. So there is awareness. This is how to amplify this of slowing down and bringing in a deeper esoteric experience, which is very much the Hanged Man. And allow it time to work through you. Allow time for it to integrate. And then we have the world, which, as I said, is Saturn, right? So we've got the dissolving nature of Neptune and the capacity to make it real, right? So the world card is know thyself and the world will open up. But in order to know ourselves, we have to strip ourselves bare. Right? We really have to get to the root of who we are, right? So this kind of feels like what I was saying about, you know, if you're like, oh, I really am not the adult in the room for myself in the way that I would like. Again, you might want to do some meditation. It might not be parental figures. It might be something from the ancestors or something that happened in your early years, whatever it may be, that is just acting as a block. So this is, you know, whenever you sort of peel back the layers of your conditioning, it could be about certain people in your life, energies, collective expectations of how you're supposed to work, how you're supposed to be mature, how you're supposed to be productive, right? We're reorientating back to the truth of what your frequency needs. So when we pull back these layers, we get to the root energy of who we are, right? So these are both kind of South Node and their vibes. And then we free up so much energetic space to then co-create with source out in the world, the sense of completion of self, right? The zero that acts as a protection, but also the capacity for everything to unfold now that you're more in alignment with yourself. So they're really saying, hey, do some inner work. Do some inner work to really reflect on these themes. And if there are blocks, why are there blocks, right? And help release that and get out of control. There may be some certain practices and habits that you have that are actually coming from a distorted place that drain your energy. But the world card, it's Saturn. Saturn's really mature. Saturn's like the grandparent. It's seen it all, that understands cause and effect, that wants you to walk with integrity. Integrity for me is the key word for Saturn. And commit to stuff. But we're figuring out what do we want to commit to. So at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Six of Swords again. right? So this is moving away from difficult times into that thriving landscape and taking with you core perspectives that help you thrive. So this is the process of the shedding of certain ideas, certain limiting beliefs that are linked into survival mechanisms rather than the calm of thriving. So maybe at work there's always been a bit of drama. Maybe there's always drama for you in the way that you take care of yourself. That it's like a bit of a battle, right? So this is you, it's saying that this is the root energy of the intention is to get you to a place where you know these core perspectives now, that kind of condensed south node energy that is then taking you when the node changes signs, you're going to see more of an outward manifestation of everything. You'll still see outward manifestation with the south node being there, but it's not as prevalent as if the node wasn't there or if the north node was there. But it's, if there is outward manifestation, it's along the lines of these 6 swords of like what's really important. So after this, you're going to be in the landscape of thriving with these perspectives. Right, let's get some cards for Gemini. Oh, this feels like it's going to be a long one. I'm already at an hour. So Gemini energy, like what I said about Cancer, is now acting as the manifestation of this south node because it squares the energy. Squares are an aspect of Mars, and even though it can bring conflict, drama and frustration, the predominant energy for me with the square is building, is manifesting in the 3D. If there is any conflict, know that it's helping you know that there is friction here to build. So the south node in your 6th house is now manifesting in the sign of Gemini, which is your 3rd house of how you find meaning in the day-to-day, right? It is your the things you do on a day-to-day basis, like the washing up. The more we find meaning in doing the washing up, the more we find a deeper resonance with the little things that we may be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that again. I only just did that, right? You know, like tidying the house and stuff like that, or going to the shop, you know, all of that. The more that we find meaning and joy in those things, as I said, it resonates to the bigger picture. I think the 3rd house is a gateway to us being at peace and embodying heaven on earth in the 3D form. It's your local community. It's the things you do on a day-to-day basis, your environmental frequency, learning things for the first time, siblings, short distance trips, and the lens in which you communicate through. So again, south node energy. This is the inner experience. This is the inner withdrawal, right? The inner cultivation, that more esoteric understanding. So as, you know, things are being stripped bare over in the 6th house of being the adult in the room, what you're left with is going to be manifesting over in your 3rd house. So you may find yourself in increments of working through energy in the day-to-day that has blocked you from being the adult in the room. You're maturing and strengthening the way that you communicate, the way that you find resonance that's in alignment with this power up that you're getting of being the adult in the room. You may see a more inner experience with that, though, of not necessarily outwardly expressing or going about your day-to-day in the same way, in the same ferocity. You might find you're not going on so many short distance trips, that kind of thing. But the ones that you do and the things that you do are acting as this higher resonance, right? This deeper, condensed, meaningful resonance that coming over in the 6th. We're just getting 2 cards for this. One's the intention and 2 how to work with it. Oh, I didn't put the root at the top of the... Oh, obviously it wasn't meant to be. Yeah, so yeah, just generally also, you know, when you're sort of learning and condensing ways of which you work and, you know, how you take care of yourself, it's going to show up in your day-to-day. You're going to have the energy, at very least in the internal sense of like, how do I then build that resonance, that frequency within myself that will then, you know, start to manifest outwardly when it's at its when you when you're sort of letting something ripen, when it's at its ripest. I tuela di animo tuela. Di shanimo tuela di anima o tuela. I can see you having conversations with people as well, getting downloads from source, as well as internally having conversations with yourself about what does that sixth house mean to you. I tuela di shalama duela di anima o tuela. And, you know, playing around in the day-to-day with working with that, right? Of having the space. You may find yourself like sort of perhaps a little more disconnected outwardly. That's giving you more space by yourself to put things into practice. Okay, so the intention of this transit, of how you find meaning in the world, right? How you communicate in the day-to-day. We've got the Fool. Love it. So the Fool is fresh new energy. You got the end of the major arcana and the beginning. The Fool operates from the heart space. The Fool is a bit foolish, potentially, and a bit delusional because it's about to leap off this cliff. But it knows a new reality is going to appear. It's not jaded. It's left the village. It's no longer entangled with the old dynamics from the ancestors and the village, you know, all of that drama. It's free. It looks at life, every experience, the good, the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, from a place of curiosity and awe of existence. Now, I love this for the third, based on the manifestation of the sixth, of being the adult in the room. You know, as I said, some people can think the Fool is foolish, but look at those mountains. Right, they are the biggest mountains in tarot. And as I said in the Judgment card, mountains represent a higher perspective. The sun is guiding the Fool forwards, right? So there's this real sense of being the adult in the room means letting go of old habits, of restrictions, of drama, of jadedness that's blocked our heart space. So your heart is being opened up. How you find that meaning, think of it. The Fool is every moment in existence. It's grateful, it's enjoying, it's open, it's curious. Having that in the third house of how you find meaning in the day-to-day, of like, yeah, I gotta do the washing up again, whoop, that kind of vibe. And the more that that's cultivated, and this is what's the intention, the more that ripples out into everything. So I love how it's bringing this kind of very childish energy in the best possible way with the adult in the room house, of like this sense of lightness of being is very mature in its nature, right? Then it's like, oh, I love doing the things that I was like, oh, that's work, that's, oh, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. It's not that energy anymore. And also in the way that you're communicating, right? It is really heart orientated, right? Rather than conflict. So that adult in the room is like, hey, we can be ourselves, we can communicate, we can understand and perceive things and get downloads, that we're not resistant. We're not like, no, hard no, I've already made up my mind. That's not the vibe. How to work with this energy. We have the Star, which is Aquarius energy, which is actually in your hopes and dreams house. But let's get back to the Star. The Star, again, very similar to the world, unclothed, unmasked, back to the truth of your frequency. But this frequency is from the earth and the galactic realms, right? That stardust energy, that star frequency is funneling through you. And so this is how to work with it, is to understand that you're getting back to the truth of you. That third house can have wounds from schools, right? Not everyone had a great school experience. Children can be pretty brutal. Siblings as well. What a sibling may have said to you that may have sort of, or in your early years, somebody said something to you that you're like, and then it's like acted as like this little pinpoint that's created a lack of meaning in your life, right? For some of you, this might be, I'll give you an example. Supposedly, I used to see spirits when I was young, and then an adult told me they didn't exist. And then, bam, gone. Just my brain switched it off. Whatever it was, switched it off. And so it's things like that that may have blocked you seeing the magic, seeing the synchronicity, seeing the messages and the resonance of meaning in your day-to-day, that this is calling you to get, like, pull back those layers, do some deep healing. It's a very healing card of yourself, of your energy field, that is sort of cleansing you of the masks you've put on year after year after year after year, and get back to your radical self. We're getting a bit delusional with this transit. We're really opening up to the magic and getting out of this sort of materialistic, finite expectation of reality. And that is cracking us all open. Two major arcana for your third house energy. I'm here for it. Right, what's at the bottom of the deck? We got the Six of Wands. So this is you going on a journey, you instinctively knowing you've got to go out and do the thing, right? You've got to go explore, you've got to get back to yourself, you've got to reorientate. And it had challenges. But at the end of it, you're feeling very confident. We've got the victory wreath there. In fact, you're being recognized for what it is that you've done. But you know, it's very much about outside recognition. This figure is about to go and have a massive banquet, and they didn't have to do it. But I like to more focus on this card of you feeling good about the steps that you take in this world, the things that you do in the day-to-day, and feeling very confident and proud and victorious and satisfied, right? And there's celebration coming. So there's this sense of that meaning, right? Is that it was worth it. The path is worth it. The things that we do on a day-to-day basis is worth it. And this experience, you're feeling very victorious in how you show up in your day-to-day. This is also, you know, the truth in which you're going to get to in the way that you communicate. Just doing stuff with the throat chakra now. You know, it's going to be recognized with other people. There isn't conflict here, right? There isn't drama. Right, let's get into Pisces. So Pisces North Node is in your 12th house, your hidden house, your house of mysteries, right? The unconscious realms, things going on behind the scenes, the occult. In those unconscious spaces can be trauma responses, limiting beliefs, distorted love languages, right? The conditioning of it all, both collective, social, and individual, that then have, you know, guide our conscious world. In this house we can have anxiety, depression, loss, grief, isolation. Now, underneath all that good stuff is the magic of your soul. And this is the cosmic joke from the cosmic troll that is the cosmos, right? That puts the magic of your soul, that Pisces energy, is your power up, is your magic, right? Behind all that conditioning. Right, it's hilarious, but it's also understandable when you see that so many spiritual traditions, whether it's book religion or individual paths, it's all about the inner work, right? It's all about the inner work of stripping ourselves back in order to find the truth of our connection with ourselves. So much of what we think is us, not even slightly. And so you've got the North Node there, the head of the dragon, right? Heading into new territory, hungry and striving. Hungry and striving, amplifying all of those themes. Now, if anxiety and depression and this sense of isolation gets amplified, trust that it is because through that process, you are able to transmute that energy into a new space, right? You are heading into new territory with your understanding of why that's happening, right? You've got more energy going on in the 12th, which is going to give you a deeper connection to it, and therefore a deeper untangling. They're shaking their head at the moment, not in like a no way, but just like shaking energy out. They've got my head moving to the right. And now to the left. Now to the back. Now to the front. Right, so North Node in Pisces. This is one, amplifying certain unconscious responses that you might not have noticed, right? That's very helpful in order for you to have the energy, which you will, to work through that, right? The other side of it, with the letting go of limiting beliefs, trauma responses, distorted love languages. Remember, you're heading into new territory beyond that. Is activating a heightened connection to the magic of your soul. I'm going to give an example of what happened to me when I had the North Node going through Cancer, right? Which is my 12th house. I had a breakdown. And I've had many breakdowns in my life. I've always been a little bit discombobulated with this planet. It was one of the most profound breakdowns that I had, where I was like, right, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm here. I'm in this planet. I'm in this incarnation. Rather, you know, I always used to have this thing of like, where's the off button, right? Can we just switch off just for a moment, right? And just let it all, but I made a decision in that breakdown to commit to my life. That I wasn't going to seek the off button anymore. That I'm here, so I might as well show up. It was incredibly profound. And then throughout that cycle, I went through a deep process of recalibration and healing. I lost my job. Well, I didn't lose my job. The job came to an end. It's very suddenly. That was linked into Uranus doing things as well, up in my 10th house. But I was really broken in that job. I was overextended. I didn't have any support. I felt like I was drowning. I didn't know a way out. My boss, it was just me and my boss. They didn't seem to be able to pull the weight. They didn't seem to be getting themselves out of their own, you know, trauma cycles. I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to let them be on their own. I wanted to, you know, every time I thought that I had got everything to a place where they would now be okay being by themselves, something big would happen and it would just go back to zero. And that happened over and over and over again. I was broken. I was burnt out. I was exhausted. I had no energy to try and get myself out of that. I was really in every direction. Everything was a bit of a disaster. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen to you, but I want you to take the key theme away from what happened. That job fell away, where I lived fell away. And again, this is more of the Uranus energy as well, right? So that's why I wanted to flag that up. That I then found myself not working in what I can only describe as a temple. I moved home. I moved into a school, a 1930s school. It was huge. I could see the sun rise and set. There were windows on both sides and the moon. And I got to recalibrate, and I went through food, yoga, breath work. I went through all the stages of like, okay, well, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to figure out how to thrive, right? Rather than be on this goddamn hamster wheel. And so I went through big stages of that, and that really opened me up to more of the magic and more of the occult. And then I started getting into more things like that, right? Of astrology and tarot and all of those things. That I was really open to, you know, figuring out the mental health issues, figuring out this depression that I'd had for nearly my whole life. How do I stop feeling numb? And really taking care of myself at a higher level, right? And really, you know, I was then opening up to new pathways when it came to the unseen realm, rather than being in this very materialistic space. So I'm not saying that you're going to have a breakdown, but if you do have something that is akin to that, I want you to hold on to not the drama of the breakdown, but with that North Node being there, you've now got the energy and the capacity to go beyond the old loops of the mental health. And at the same time, it was a two-pronged thing of the more I was working on, you know, how to regulate existing, the more I had more space to engage in the magic of my soul, to engage in the magic in the occult, in things that are the unseen realms. So I just want to give that as an example, because I think that sort of brings all the themes together. I tuela di anima, dishanimo duela di animo tuela. Di animo yala di shanima. You got a bonus card there. I tuela di animo tuela. Di shanimo tuela. Dina modoena. So, as I said, right, this sense of the magic of Pisces, right, that you're going to get the support that you need, but do not push at it, do not control at it, do not worry about it, right? What's going to unfold is accessing a higher level of this sort of miracle energy, an unconditional love of self. Right? So trust in it all, my loves. Now, Jupiter, look to where your Jupiter is in your natal chart, because Jupiter traditionally rules Pisces and also rules Sagittarius. Wherever your Jupiter is and what house it's in and the themes of that house are going to play a role with what's coming through here. I've also listed in the description box where Jupiter's going to be. For the whole transit. Also, you might want to look back to June 2006 to December 2007. That's the last time we had the nodes in these places. So it's not going to repeat itself, but you can kind of think, okay, well, what happened then? And to give you an idea, but also don't limit yourself of thinking, oh, well, only that's going to happen. But it can just give you an understanding of, you went through this cycle already. If you're a bit worried about it, I really don't want you to be worried. Let go of the fear. Do those practices of the fear response, of releasing them through your emotional body. Right, the intention of this moon, not this moon, I mean, it does involve the moon, it's an eclipse, of this transit. We have the Page of Pentacles and the Hierophant. Love this. New ways of thinking. Pages have just got into the court. They're so excited, right? They want to learn everything. They want to talk to everybody, right? But it is not jaded. They're not jaded. They're experiencing new things. They're learning new things. They're going and exploring. This is new communication with your 12th house. New ways of navigating the 12th house. New ways of understanding. New opportunities showing up in that 12th house. I'm here for this. I'm loving this. And then we've got the Hierophant. The Hierophant is the Pope, right? That's just a representation of what the Pope means. Now, the Pope usually has to go through its own experiences, its own journey, its own dark nights of the soul, right? Which is what I talked about with my own experience. In order to then crack open, right? And really embody their spiritual understanding. And if you don't, you're not spiritual, that sort of deeper meaning of existence, right? It is the full embodiment of that in the 3D realm. This is powerful. This is also a level of authority and commitment, right? So a level of authority in that 12th house, acting as a vessel as your magic of your soul, but also like having a deeper control and understanding of mental health and of all those other issues, and really being in your power about it, right? Now, Taurus for you, is your second house of your skills and your tools, your resources, of how you manifest and bring in regular income, as well as the things that you value, and most importantly, how you value yourself. So I can see a knock-on effect of what's going on in the 12th, releasing wounds around your own sense of value and having you have a higher level of commitment to how you manifest and value your experience. That was a very simple transmission right there. I love it. Okay, the challenge. We got the Seven of Wands in reverse. Now, I read this a little differently to most people. That I've come across anyway. There may be people who do. That this figure, they are standing on a cliff. They've got the higher ground, right? They have something of value, but do they look like it? Do they? Look at that face. Looks so uncertain, so unsteady, right? Of its footing, of its placing. Is worried it's got to be in conflict. It's got to be in competition with all these wands. These wands might just be wandering along. Look, it's like the Six of Wands all coming along, and they might just be going off over there. But this figure's like, whoa, I gotta be on the defensive. I gotta be ready. Everything is scarcity. Everything is competition. I don't know my own value. For me, this is one of the cards that I feel like is like a real archetypal wound we're all working through, that we don't know our own value, right? We don't love ourselves unconditionally, and therefore because of that, we're constantly then heading back into the conflict zone, back into the scarcity zone, right? And so the challenge, because it's in the reverse, and for me the reverse is genuinely knowing your own value, not needing to be in those denser frequencies and matrices that highlight fear, competition, scarcity, right? Combat, conflict in ways that aren't serving anybody. it's in the reverse. It's like knowing your own value and moving away from that and really being very confident within yourself. Okay, so there's something in the unconscious realm that is kind of refusing to accept this. There may be some struggles, right? Maybe because you may be going through certain situations that, you know, what I said was an extreme one, but there may be levels of that where you're feeling very lack orientated in terms of that depression and that anxiety, right? Which we all suffer with. As I said, I've suffered with it for most of my life. It's quite a new shift for me, that or sometimes we can really, because we're heading into new territory. It's similar to the South Node. The South Node is like we can struggle when things fall away that we're not consciously letting go of, whereas that North Node is like you're being forced to go into new spaces, you're being forced to sort of evolve, and we can feel really comfortable with our sense of self, even if it's on an unconscious level, especially because it's on an unconscious level, that there can be real resistance to going into these new spaces. So I want you, let me cut the deck and see what wants to come through. Okay, we got the Queen of Wands, right? So diala molto ela, diani molto ela. They're really wanting you to focus on, we've got wand energy, right, of your embodiment of self. She's super confident. Look at where she's sitting. She's very independent. She's got the passion and the drive to understand that sense of movement, right? So really tap into your fire energy when you're finding there's resistance, right? Allow that fire energy, which is your flow state, right, to take you instinctively into new spaces. You know, she's always drawn towards the light as well. So you might want to check in with yourself, right, and sit in your root, in your power, and really observe the different responses you may be having to certain situations, right? If you're feeling like, no, sit with it. Sit with it and cultivate and see what comes through, because you're going to get a lot of wisdom. But this is card is also saying you are in your power. You really are in your power with this experience. And to have that kind of confidence, right, to like cultivate that kind of confidence of the unconditional love of spirit. Fire is often linked into spirit. But as I said, of like that letting go of old versions of self, right, we can really struggle. Fire is obviously very transformative. You might want to do a fire ritual. Always be safe with fire, right? If you kind of you might want to have this card, you might want to I don't know, write something down that's relevant to you that links into that card, being in the reverse, right, being in the upright, and then burn it with some water near you, because it's Pisces. Whatever you feel intuitively guided that might help that process of release, that sense of transmission. Dianima, you are of value, my loves, right? That unconditional love of Pisces can feel very personal to you, but not necessarily, you can't necessarily connect to it because it's kind of hidden, right? The whole thing with the 12th is to try and bring it into the rest of your chart. How to work with this energy, how to amplify this. Dianimo duela. 2 of Cups, 8 of Wands, King of Cups. You got Earth as the intention of the manifestation in the 3D, and then you got all fire and water. Mercury and Venus are both going to retrograde in Aries, and then go back into Pisces. So I'm not surprised this is bringing in this energy. So the 2 of Cups with the 8 of Wands and King of Cups is really kind of like also about helping with this. Is treating yourself with respect, honor, and dignity. Be open to receive and give love to yourself and your unconscious spaces, and integrate this level of union through deep healing. That's going to lead to alignment, right? Lead to this sense of clarity in your instincts when you love yourself unconditionally in the best possible way. It's not about not being real with yourself, but also not shaming yourself about things. Always learn from things that make you feel uncomfortable, but then don't hold on to it. And then we've got the King of Cups again, right? So this is this real balance of emotional control, this sense of maturity and sovereignty, that by practicing this and allowing the alignment to come through, and then practicing this level of it's just an emotion. It's not just an emotion. It's an emotion. I'm going to honor it, but there's still a part of me cultivating that neutrality within you. You're going to have more opportunities to do that. And then at the end, it's like a real resonance of like the power of your magic is embodying, right? So that Two of Cups, as I say, the masculine, feminine, and spirit. This is about the integration of all these different aspects of yourself. You know, being very loving to say you've got heightened anxiety, and before you'd shame it. Before you're like, oh, why do I always feel like this? It's like, no, that's not the vibe. That's not how we solve things. Love is the way. As I said, we got the caduceus here, or the kundalini or the kundalini energy. And that is all about deep healing, as well as this activation of your root power through love, through being open to give and receive. And that love, emotional nourishment. It's so incredibly powerful that they're calling you to find union, find balance, find harmony, find love in your experiences, in your understanding of your mental health, rather than being, you know, very similar to what I, you know, my own experience of. I had so much momentum and space to do some profound, deep work around my mental health. And I've not been the same since. And that Eight of Wands, this is Mercury in Sagittarius, where the moon is right now. But it is this alignment energy of your instincts. And this is about try and, focus on how you communicate with yourself internally, right? Is it discordian? Is it conflict orientated? Or can you find ways of navigating a flow state, navigating alignment that is getting you where you need to go, right? So that may be mantra, daily mantras, daily meditations, something that is helping bring in alignment with the way that you communicate with your internal world. Right, so that's going to really help as well as the collective of the three together message. And then that King of Cups again, cultivating that new sense of neutrality within yourself, right? The sense of maturity, of treating yourself as if you would your own child or something that is vulnerable, right? Really be very deeply loving and caring and supportive, right? And really help. You got this energy coming in, and then to amplify it, it really is that honoring of, you're probably going to have to go through a lot of emotional releases, right? And different parts, different emotions within you that you may have rejected or hidden from or shamed. You know, as I said, cultivate that neutrality. It's just an experience. Remember the Fool over here, and allow that emotion to move through you, right? And then you'll find that you'll have more space to then harness that emotional intuitive body from a place of very clear, sovereign energy, very mature in its nature. Right at the bottom of the deck we have the moon. Hi Pisces. So we've got the moon again. This is again really wanting you to tap into, this is the root energy. It's going to be you tapping into your sort of psychic nature and all the themes I said before about the evolutionary growth of your emotional body, of your needs, of your nourishment, whether they've been distorted and put in places that don't have value or moved elsewhere. You are evolving your Pisces energy. You're evolving the worries, the fears, the unconscious responses. They're shifting into new territory. Your intuition, your channeling, your psychic tendencies. We're all psychics. We're all intuitives. We all channel. Every single one of us, we just do it in different ways, and we're at certain stages of our activations. Don't feel like I really need to say much of that. I love that that's the root energy that's being manifested with this, right? Of being comfortable with the unseen realms. Right, okay, let's do 2 cards for Sagittarius. So, all of this North Node activation is heading over and building in your 9th house. This is the house of the gods. This is about your perspectives, right? The key word here is perspective. Your morals, your ethics, your philosophies, your connection to book religion, science, source, nature, whatever matrix that is bigger than you that you're figuring out. Now, matrix just means, a web of connection. It's, let's not go down the negative route, but some matrices are more dense than others that don't necessarily serve us at any given point. But that sense of how you perceive the world, how you map yourself out in it, what does it mean to you, figuring out your own perspectives, learning from other people, all of that kind of thing. It's also about mastery of something, right? So whether that is doing a course at another level, doing, whatever that is, there's a real sense of an elevation of a certain perspective, or something that you're learning or that you've learned in the past. And you're like, oh, I've got the space, I've got the time, I kind of want to focus on this. And elevate that. It's also about teaching, right? About sharing perspectives. We're not here to change people's minds. That's entirely up to them. As well as going and living somewhere that is unfamiliar to you for a longish period of time, that to broaden your perspective. So, in terms of like my, what the story that I told you, I was then elevating my perspective around mental health, around the physical body, how, the unseen realms. I was really going into the weeds of all of that and going through stages of mastery with each of those, and then moving on to the next thing. I spent a time, I was living in a guardianship, which I live in London, and London rent is insane. And it doesn't really matter how much you earn, it's still insane. Understandably, I get it. So a guardianship is when there is buildings that aren't necessarily residential, that the property developer hasn't started the development yet, and so they get people in, and you are on a 28-day notice, rather than a 6-month tenancy or whatever. And so they can kick you out within 28 days, but you've got really cheap rent, right? So I ended up living, as I said, at this what was a primary school, but before was a nunnery, in this massive room. I'd never been in a guardianship before. I'd never lived in a school before. So I know, I was living in a place that was unfamiliar, right, for a longish period of time in order to broaden my perspectives. My perspectives skyrocketed during this time. So you're really going to be elevating and expanding your perspectives at a level, you haven't done since, as I said, June 2006 to December 2007. For some of you, it may be that you've got a bit more time, a bit more isolation going on in your life. And these themes, they're going to come in various stages and various levels. You just got more time to focus on learning and expanding. And learning doesn't obviously have to be mental, just, the written reading books and stuff. It can be, with your hands, or any kind of form of learning. For some of you, this might be going on a retreat, right? Going somewhere where you're in isolation willingly, right? In order to, connect and do those kind of things. The ninth house can get a bit of a bashing because of everything going on in the world, that we can externalize our perspectives to the outside world rather than what's going on in our reality, right? And so this can often be pulling back to, okay, well, what is your reality and how do you then influence it, rather than being influenced from the outside world, especially because of the magic of your soul coming to the forefront and really helping you step into new territory around how you perceive the world. As I said, I started, as a child, I was very much surrounded by all this stuff, but disconnected from it and went into the materialist world for quite a while, and then I came back to it, and it was like that sense of things that I already knew, I was then elevating, like that sense of mastery. So let's talk about these cards. Let's get these. Sorry, I don't know why I said it that way. Right, so the intention of the North Node in Pisces manifesting and building over in the sign of Sagittarius. Well, we've got the Queen of Cups. I like this. So the Queen of Cups can see into the future, right? She can see far and wide, very psychic. She's not worried. In fact, she's so at peace. And my key word for the Queen of Cups is serenity. She's so in a state of serenity that she is turning into her environment, into the present moment, right? So I love this in terms of a perspective of no longer worrying about the future, worrying about how things are going to turn out, and being in a state of calm in your present moment, which is the most ideal perspective we can bring in, right? The now energy, right? The I am and the now energy in the moment. She's very caring, she's very nurturing, very loving. She cultivates and brings nuance and depth to your intuition, to your emotional body, to your imagination, to your sense of love, right? So this is this is the intention, is for you to get into this space of serenity and this sense of love and real calm in your emotional body, and really elevating your perspective to, like, she's very psychic, right? So bringing in the unseen realms, bringing in the possibilities of perspectives of how you see the world that may have been very unfamiliar to you. We're now elevating these and bringing them to the forefront. But I love this for the 9th, right? That sense of deep peace in how you move through the world, right? Knowing things are going to unfold. You may change your mind, things will evolve, but you are present in the moment. I am here for that. How to work with this energy. 5 of Cups in reverse. So, you know, as I said, like that, the 9th house can take a bashing from what's going on in the world. And I usually reference grief, and I didn't, and I'd forgotten this card was here because my brain dumps. The grief of the outside world, right? The chaos, the drama, the pain that is everywhere, right? We can be very hypersensitive to it, especially as you've got a collective sign there of Sagittarius, because it brings in more of the collective energy. That they're really asking you, hey, can we get back to your present reality, right? Can we let go of the grief of the big outside world, because it fundamentally is serving neither party, especially if you're not necessarily getting up and, you know, going out and doing things about it. If you're just like, read it, you know, doom scrolling the news that generally doesn't affect you. And I'm not saying don't stay aware and don't be mindful and don't do the actions that you know are the right actions you need to do, but so often we can have a lot of shame and a lot of guilt over what we're not doing, and that just feeds into the matrix. For some of you, this may be just generally like that sense of certain understandings of the world from your personal understanding, right? Your environment, the way that you move through the world. There may have been certain scenarios and situations where you felt restricted, where you felt there's no joy, right? You haven't been able to. There's just this sense of heaviness here, right? That they're really asking you, no, we're moving into a new space now. I'm going to cut the deck and see what wants to come with it. Right, I've got the 10 of Pentacles with it. Think about the long term, right? So often a lot of our grief is very of the moment. It's not about denying the experience or the emotion, but it might be about something that we are fundamentally not going to care about in the long term. Think about what core perspectives really matter to you that are going to serve you building for the rest of your existence. And that can just sort of give a bit of outside perspective, right? That zoom out perspective that then helps release that sort of the weight of that 5 of Cups. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the King of Pentacles, right? So this is the root energy of what's going to be cultivated, is this sense of abundance, right? The capacity to create from your perspectives and see the world, see your environment as a very abundant, right? That sense of the capacity to manifest in the 3D world, that there are possibilities, that there are experiences. Say you've got a perspective of, there is scarcity out there, there's limits, and I can't break through them, and so everybody can't have everything, and so I'm going to be in that 5 of Cups. I love the King of Pentacles. Before it became the King, its root energy was generally everything we do, everything that happens is an act of abundance and creativity. And that is stepping into the neutral fact of it, right? Rather than is it good or is it bad? And because it held on to this belief, it was its core belief, it then actually genuinely started manifesting and creating in the 3D world abundance, right? See all these grapes, they represent the harvest. They represent ripened fruit that the abundance is coming in, and it's surrounded by a beautiful home and having the best time. So this is at the root of what's going on in terms of that Sagittarius energy, that through this process of serenity and letting go of grief and limiting beliefs in mindsets of what may happen and always happen, if you focus on everything is an act of abundance and creativity, then that is going to shift your perspective. And this is reminding me of, I had a massive download yesterday. I'm going to talk about it in the oracle reading, so you might want to check in. It very much ties into your Virgo you know, wanting to, you know, facilitate everybody, wanting to do all the things and get everything done, and then perhaps feeling a bit of shame and a bit of judgment if you haven't done that thing, even though you've done 10 million other things, that you're like, oh, but I missed that, right? We're letting go of that and allowing the confidence that source is going to show up and provide miracles for everybody. Right, we're doing oracle cards now. First deck up is the Four Agreements. This is, where did that flipper go? This is based on a book of the same name, written by a Virgo sun, given to me by a Gemini rising. It's a very mercurial deck, and I'm using it to tap into what does Mercury want to say to you. Now, these oracle cards, they have, I'm tapping into specific energy. They may be about one side or the other, or all of it combined, right? It all depends. Don't take anything personally. Your truth is personal to you. So, Ilama, your own opinions and point of view reflect your own agreements and are personal to you. It is no one's truth but yours. I really like this with the kind of co-worker energy and the adult in the room, and, you know, perhaps the criticism of self or of others that is kind of getting you out of your own way of the entanglement of the expectations of other people, and really getting you to sort of condense down what is your truth in how you work, what is the truth of what serves you being in the adult in the room. It may look very different to anybody else, right? And not let the judgment of others, the expectations of others define you in this journey of rediscovering your own voice and your own clarity with this Mercury energy. Right, now it's from the Shaman's Dream Oracle. This is representing Jupiter. What does Jupiter want to say to my lovely Aries? Oh, okay. This card doesn't come out very often. I use this deck all the time. We have Skywriting the Fates. The fates, that which we cannot change, non-judgment. It is written in the sky that you have a destiny. You are being invited to explore certain aspects of life unique to you and you alone. That does not mean that your path will be easy, paved with gold and littered with diamonds. Nor does this predict that your journey will be treacherous. It's just your path, with parts that cannot be changed and must be radically accepted as they are. In this way, whatever you are faced with, every single aspect of your life is perfect in its imperfection. Not good or bad, neither in flow nor blocked, this nor that. See your life as a series of opportunities rather than an obstacle course. Once you master the skill of non-judgment, you open to the power of curiosity, unencumbered by the burdens of yesterday's fears, as you look ahead into the potential of the future. Yes, you still need to be brave. Right now, you are facing a critical moment in time with an opportunity to meet your fate. The choice point where you expand your influence and your capacity for abundance, love, and purposeful action. Now is the moment to leap into it, whether it be a heart connection, a call to creativity, or a new identity in your work or another area of life, with all your heart and soul. Your success is surely written in the stars. In order to bring your destiny to fruition, you must jump into the adventure with both feet, Pisces rules the feet, and do your part. I really like that in terms of allowing you to trust in the process of what's going to unfold with the Pisces Sagittarius energy. And it's really highlighting all that stuff about that neutrality and the love, and that's the way forward. And that's the process of letting go of those yesterday's fears, right? We're heading into new territory, which is what it's talking about, right? And we've got to be open to the experience and curious, and that's now bringing in the Fool. Right, next up is from the Earth Magic Oracle. I'm tapping into Virgo here. What does Virgo want to say to my lovely Aries? We've got Mountain and Strength. Right. Okay, let's figure out where M is. The massiveness of the mountain in this image bearing the blankets of snow as spectacular hues from the sun reflect from its body, evoke a sense of impenetrable and immovable strength and stature. A mountain's quiet, resolute immensity leaves us in awe and aspires us to reach for greater heights. Yet it can also pose challenges. The firm base of the mountain evolves to the narrower crest in its attempt to reach the sky. More daring individuals become enamored by the peak and see it as something to conquer, although it can never be truly conquered. You might want to watch, there's a sort of like an art housey documentary. It's not really a documentary, it's like an art piece on Mountain. It's called Mountain. Who is it who does the voiceover? He's a older famous actor. It might come to me. Anyway, it's good. I like it. It's a bit cheesy in parts, but I really like it. You might want to watch it. More daring individuals become enamored by the peak and see it as something to conquer, although it can never be truly conquered. When the mountain feels threatened in some way, when the mountain feels threatened in some way, or simply shrugs its shoulders, the strength exhibited can wreak havoc for all beings caught on its skin. It makes no sense to deny the strength you have at the cost of allowing yourself. It makes no sense to deny the strength you have at the cost of allowing yourself to be reactive and subject to external influences far beyond what is healthy for you. Imagine yourself as a mountain of strength, solidly grounded in the earth, your head held high as if you were touching the sky. Do so without straining, just as the mountain itself does not strain. The current situation calls for you to be vigilant, but not to the point of fear or paranoia. Be that rock of strength that you are capable of becoming. The solidness of your resolve will be clearly communicated when you model yourself after the towering immensity of a mountain, impenetrable and inscrutable. Standing steady like a rock is what is called for at this time. That's very, very appropriate for that South Node in Virgo, right? Of not falling into fear, realizing you're building something from your core that takes time, right? The mountain grows at a rate that is almost incomprehensible to the human, right? So there's a real sense of solidity that it's letting you know that you have. So if you're feeling a little like, whoa, what's going on with everything that's being pulled away, tap back to the mountain. And I like that it's saying it's not, don't strain, right? That's me saying don't push, right? There's a softening here, right? Of you don't need to rush. You don't need to climb that peak. You don't need to be like off and running. This is about the slow build of cultivating your power, of being the adult in the room. Of showing up and doing the daily work of the refinement. And I really like the word inscrutable. So this is about your honor, your integrity of how you work, not what other people think about it, right? If you know you're integral with what you're doing, it helps release this sort of external clawing that the outside world can bring in. Right, final oracle card. This is from Keepers of the Light, and this is representing Pisces. Yeah, to go with your truth is personal to you and not externalizing, right? The mountain's not bothered about people scrabbling around it. I mean, it kind of is in a way, but not in a way that it's distorting. That's too many. Just the one, thanks. Not in the way that it's distorting its own experience. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way and not collaborating in a healthy way. But if you know, a lot of interactions can just be you know, it can just like, we just lose ourselves in those outward expressions and then forget ourselves, and it doesn't serve us in the long term, right? That sense of there's a core thing within you that has never been distorted by the outside world in how to be the adult in the room. You know, it's in you already, and this is the activation of it. We have Freya. Phases and cycles. There is a beginning with every ending. Illusions are revealed and released. Freya, which means lady, is the Norse goddess of the moon and love. She's the twin flame of Odin and a warrior goddess who offers deep spiritual and physical protection to those who call on her. She will stand before you with her shield and spear, keeping you safe from harm. Oh, I'm liking this for the 12th house. She works closely with the moon energy and helps us recognize that our life is a cycle that is always changing. She herself is the maiden, the mother, and the crone aspect of all women, and guides them to see the wisdom these cycles bring. We all go through phases and cycles of growth, and Freya is the energy that supports this. She's a raven spirit totem. By the way, we have, we all have feminine energy within us. She has the raven spirit totem, which is said to represent her capacity to travel between heaven and earth. So again, there's sort of, you've got this one protection, the acknowledgement of you're going through some big growth here, and you're getting support, as well as the raven and letting you know you're going back and forth between the unseen realms and the 3D, right? You're going to have a lot of messages and a lot of downloads. A phase of your life may be coming to an end, but it's important to acknowledge that it's not the end. When one door closes, another opens. You may have been desperate for change, but now that it's here, you could feel vulnerable. Know that this mighty goddess Freya will guide you. Illusions are now being revealed so that you can leave behind anything that is false. Step into your peaceful warrior-like energy and welcome the changes you deserve. Tie up all loose ends and take heart. This is an exciting time. Oh, I like that. I like that with the 12th. Right, so that's the end of the reading. We are done. I'm going to do a quick little cut the deck for each of the oracle cards and see what comes up. We have Paul the Venetian, experiencing a grace. Share your gifts with grace. Waves of inspiration and love are coming to you. I can definitely see this as a higher activation of the magic of your soul, and that is going to reveal more gifts. I'm feeling it more aligned as well with the Virgo energy of embodying the magic in how you work at a deeper level. Yeah, as well as I love the waves of inspiration and love. Very, very Piscean. We've got Desert Vision Quest with Mountain, right? So you're really, the Vision Quest is when we're kind of stripped bare and we're fasting and we're going out in the world. We're losing ourselves in the stillness, in the quiet, to go deep within and discover something. Very South Node energy, that you are going to be revealing a great power, a great strength, that you are in fact the mountain. The mountain that doesn't need to control what everybody else is doing. We have, oh, love this. Cosmic Womb, the Divine Feminine, one of my favorite cards. Is about you being held, right? And you're really being cultivated in the womb of the divine feminine that is allowing you to emerge in a higher connection with source. That you're very protected, you're very safe during this, even if there may be certain scenarios where you're like, that doesn't feel safe. Trust in the process. We have discern the truth. Don't make assumptions. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe that they are the truth. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, then we react by sending emotional poison with our word. This creates a whole big drama for nothing, right? So don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, get back to you, ask questions, right? That's always good. Rather than making assumptions. And that's making assumptions about yourself as well. Right, my loves? I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it resonated. Oh, 2 hours on the clock. If it did, hit that like button. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. It brings me so much joy. If you want a personal reading, perhaps deep dive on this, or maybe do a reading to sort of go into like that first section, because you just had the nodes in your sign, right? Of like what's the unfolding now that that's changed. Aries, be good to yourself, be good to those around you, safe travels, and be well until we meet again.